Huge changes are coming to your credit scores. What's up, guys? My name's Gilberto from Credit Guys, keeping you up to date on all things credit and finance related. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future information. The first of many changes is that the three national credit reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, have extended their free weekly reports until December 31st of 2022. Originally, before the pandemic and everything that was going on in the world, you were only allowed to request one credit report once per year. As a reminder, credit reports are different from credit scores. Credit scores is just an algorithm that determines your credit worthiness depending on your history. Your credit report is just what it sounds like. It's your history within the past 7 to 10 years that you've made with the lenders. Initially, this was set to expire in April of 2022, but has recently been extended to the end of this year. So why is this even important? The reason why you want to check your credit reports often is because your report shows you how many credit cards and loans you've had, whether or not you've paid your bills on time, or whether or not you've had debts that have turned into collections. This is important because creditors, some employers, and even some businesses may pull your credit right before even doing any business with you. It also helps determine your terms and your interest rates. Incorrect information such as delinquencies, late payments, charge-offs, and even bankruptcies can hurt your credit score and increase how much it would cost for you to borrow money, let alone decrease your chances of even getting a loan, insurance, a rental, or even possibly a job. So the sooner you can spot a mistake, the sooner you can dispute the error. Moving on to the next major change, which is how medical debts are now going to be reported. Starting in July of 2022, all three credit bureaus will remove 70% of all medical debt information from credit reports. They also will remove medical collection debts that have all been paid down to zero instead of showing up as a charge-off account. This can be great news for some, as it no longer will report and affect people negatively on their credit. They will also be increasing the length of time that the medical debts will appear on your credit report from 6 months to now 12 months. Sometime beginning in 2023, they will also be removing any unpaid medical collection debts that are reporting less than $500. The reason on why this came about is that a big government agency known as Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has considered a ban on medical debts. The CFPB reported that 43 million credit reports contain medical collections. It also reported that 1 in 10 Americans have carried a medical debt of at least $250. Unfortunately, medical debt is also one of the leading causes of filing for bankruptcy for most Americans. So how will this exactly change your credit score? There are already newer scoring models that don't factor medical debts or paid medical collections. But the majority of creditors and lenders out there are still using older models such as FICO 8. So based on my research, it doesn't say whether or not they're going to backtrack all the FICO scores or if this applies to the newer ones only. But based on the information that I've gathered, I believe this is for all FICO scores. With this information removed, this will definitely help a lot of people out there and help increase their score. Now, let's talk about another change that will be coming to your credit reports called Buy Now and Pay Later loans. So some of the major companies that you might have seen during checkout when you're shopping online can be from Affirm or Klarna. There has been a huge rise of these companies when it comes to shopping online due to the pandemic. The thing about these short-term loans is that unlike credit cards, these short-term loans are not reported by the credit bureaus. So there are a lot of subprime borrowers out there that have taken on these services, and their credit scores are usually not affected if they aren't making on-time payments. So this can be a good thing for consumers since it lets them purchase the things that they want, but it also puts them in a worse position with more debt. This also depends on the length of the loan. Sometimes the loans are only for a couple of months or 0% APR, then they may not report it. But if it's longer with terms, then they may. But in recent news, the major credit bureaus are pushing more and more for these buy now, pay later companies to report to the credit bureaus. So how does reporting these loans affect your credit scores? One of the biggest things is the amount of owed portions of your credit scores. Anytime that you have more debt, this tends to hurt your credit score. Also, since this is an installment line of credit, if you were to miss any payments, this can really affect your payment history. Generally, whenever you open up a new loan, this tends to drop your credit score by a few points. But as your balances decrease, your credit score will begin to increase again. Once you've paid off the loan in its entirety, it will remove the trade line completely. Credit scores are weird, I know, but you get rewarded by being in debt. Each credit bureau has different plans on how they want to report this information. For instance, TransUnion is attempting to address this issue by not counting all of these loans in the calculations. Instead, it will be reported on your credit report but will not affect your credit score. As for Experian, they're pretty much doing the same thing as TransUnion, which means that they will collect all the loans currently in your outstanding debt, but they will not be using that to affect your credit score. On the other hand, Equifax is going to be doing something different compared to the other two. Equifax will allow these buy now, pay later providers to include these loans in the calculations of your credit score. So long story short, TransUnion and Experian are currently not factoring these loans, while Equifax possibly can. It really just depends on how the provider reports the information and whether or not the companies pulling your credit is going to be taking those loans into consideration. I understand it can be a little bit confusing because some of these buy now, pay later providers may or may not report certain loans to the credit bureaus, and additionally, the credit bureaus may or may not use that information against you. The key thing about these types of loans is that I would always treat them as any other type of loan that you would get from a bank, because if you were to miss a payment, this will most likely have a negative impact on your credit score, and the likelihood of you getting another short-term loan might be more difficult. So even though the same of these loans may not be reported or factored into your score, I would treat them just as any other loan. So now let's move on to the newest type of scoring model, which is FICO 10 and T10. Introduced back in 2020, you may start to see these used more and more frequently. The majority difference is that the T version looks at the last 24 months of your credit activity to predict future behavior. The reason why there are two different types of FICO 10 is because FICO can sell these scores depending on what a lender needs to know. But as of right now, most lenders still use FICO 8 for their lending decisions, and this credit score was actually introduced back in 2009. For mortgages, they still use FICO 2, 4, and 5, and auto lenders have their own FICO scoring models as well. Most lenders use a different combination of scoring models to determine whether or not they want to approve you for lending. So there you have it. These are the latest upcoming dates to your reports. If you found this video valuable, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.